3 p.m., you know exactly what happens at 3 p.m. Your energy drops, your focus blurs, your hand starts moving towards something, coffee, something sweet, anything within reach. And you tell yourself you will make up for it at the gym later or eat lighter at dinner. But here's what the research actually says about that trade. A study from Brigham and Women's Hospital found that what people eat and do between 2 and 5 p.m. has a greater impact on overnight fat storage than what they eat at dinner. Not dinner. The afternoon. The hours between 2 and 5 p.m. are the most metabolically vulnerable window of the entire day. Your blood sugar is at its lowest natural point. Your cortisol is in its natural afternoon valley. Your decision fatigue is at its highest. And every small choice you make in that window is either setting up overnight fat burning or quietly shutting it down before it ever starts. 7 habits decide which direction those hours go. And stay with me because habit number 5 is the one almost nobody connects to belly fat. 15 minutes of it in the afternoon can anchor your entire overnight fat burning window in a way that almost nothing else can replicate. Before we start, drop a comment right now. What do you usually do at 3 p.m.? Coffee, snack, push through, or something else? I want to know where most people watching this are actually starting from. Here is the biology behind why the afternoon matters so much for belly fat specifically. Your cortisol follows a natural daily curve. It peaks in the first 30 to 45 minutes after waking, then falls steadily through the morning and into the afternoon. Around 2 to 3 p.m., cortisol reaches its lowest point of the active day. This valley is not a flaw in your biology. It is a design feature. Low cortisol in the afternoon creates the highest fat-burning potential of any point in your waking hours. Fat oxidation rate is naturally at its peak when cortisol is at its trough. But your insulin sensitivity is also beginning its own decline in the afternoon. The same meal eaten at noon and at 4 p.m. produces different insulin responses. The later meal triggers a higher spike. So you have a narrow window in the afternoon where cortisol is low and insulin sensitivity is still relatively intact. The decisions you make in that window either leverage it or waste it. 7 specific habits determine which one. Habit number 1. Choosing a protein snack instead of a carbohydrate snack. This is the habit that naturally lean people tend to have without framing it as a health decision. Notice what the people around you who stay lean without visible effort reach for when they snack in the afternoon. It is rarely a handful of crackers or a cookie or a bag of chips. It tends to be something with substance. Greek yogurt, a boiled egg, a small amount of nuts, some cheese, leftover protein from lunch. Not always perfectly healthy, but almost always something that slows digestion rather than accelerating it. Here is why that matters for the afternoon specifically. When you eat a high carbohydrate snack around 3 p.m., your blood sugar spikes quickly. Energy arrives fast, then it crashes. You feel worse 45 minutes after the snack than you did before you ate it, and your brain, sensing the crash, asks for another hit of quick energy. The cycle continues into the evening. Protein does something fundamentally different. Protein triggers the release of peptide YY and GLP-1, 2 hormones that suppress ghrelin, your hunger signal, for 3 to 4 hours. The afternoon craving that was driving you toward the snack cupboard quiets down for the rest of the afternoon. And here is the downstream effect that most people never connect to belly fat. When ghrelin is suppressed through the afternoon from a protein snack, it stays lower through the evening. Evening hunger is reduced. Dinner portions naturally decrease without conscious restriction. The overnight insulin environment is calmer because less food arrived in the late hours. A study published in the Journal of Nutrition found that a high-protein afternoon snack reduced daily fat intake, improved appetite control throughout the evening, and meaningfully reduced nighttime snacking compared to a carbohydrate snack of the same calories. David is a sales manager who used to keep a box of crackers on his desk for the afternoon. He switched to hard-boiled eggs and a small container of Greek yogurt. 2 weeks later, he told me he had stopped wanting the snacks he used to eat at 9 p.m. while watching television. Not because he was being disciplined, because his ghrelin had already been managed from the afternoon. The fix is simple. When you snack in the afternoon, make sure protein is the main component, at least 10 to 15 grams. Greek yogurt, a boiled egg, cottage cheese, a small amount of jerky, a protein shake. You are not restricting yourself. You are choosing the snack that works with your afternoon biology rather than against it. Habit number 2. Reaching for coffee again in the late afternoon. This is the mistake most people make specifically because the alternative feels unbearable. The 3 p.m. energy dip arrives. Coffee feels like the obvious solution. It worked this morning. It will work now. But here is what afternoon caffeine does to your fat burning that morning caffeine does not. Your cortisol is supposed to be in its natural afternoon decline from around 2 p.m. onward. This decline is not just about feeling relaxed, it is a required biological process that sets up the hormonal environment for overnight recovery and fat burning. Caffeine delays and blunts that decline. A study published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology found that afternoon caffeine consumption significantly disrupted the natural cortisol decline curve in the late afternoon and early evening, with measurable downstream effects on nocturnal growth hormone secretion. Growth hormone, as we have covered, is your primary overnight fat-burning signal. When afternoon caffeine delays cortisol decline, growth hormone release is pushed later and compressed. The fat-burning window your body was supposed to run during the first half of sleep gets shortened. And there is a second mechanism specific to the afternoon. The cortisol that stays elevated longer from afternoon caffeine raises insulin resistance slightly during the hours before dinner. The same dinner creates a higher insulin response on days with late afternoon caffeine compared to days without it. The fix is moving your caffeine cutoff earlier than you probably have it now. Noon to 1 p.m. is ideal. 2 p.m. at the absolute latest. For the afternoon energy dip itself, the solutions are biological rather than pharmacological. A large glass of cold water triggers thermogenesis and mild alertness without touching your cortisol curve. 5 minutes of movement, any movement, resets neural alertness without hormonal cost. And outdoor natural light, which we will cover in Habit 5, is one of the most powerful alertness tools that exists with no caffeine required. Habit number 3. Taking a short walk or stretching. During the 2 to 3 p.m. window. This is one of the most underutilized fat-burning opportunities that exists in most people's days. Naturally, lean people tend to have some form of movement during the early afternoon without planning it as exercise. They get up to refill their water. They take a walk to think through a problem. They stretch at their desk when they feel the afternoon stiffness arriving. None of it looks intentional. All of it is metabolically significant. Here's the specific reason why movement during the 2 to 3 p.m. window is different from the same movement at other times. Your cortisol is at its lowest point in the active day during this window. Low cortisol means your body is not in the threat response mode that redirects energy away from fat burning. When you exercise or move in a low cortisol environment, fat oxidation rate is higher per minute of activity compared to the same movement in a high cortisol morning environment. A study published in the International Journal of Obesity found that afternoon light exercise during the natural cortisol valley produced higher fat oxidation rates per minute compared to morning exercise of the same intensity and duration. The same 10 minutes of walking burns a higher percentage of fat during the afternoon cortisol dip than the same walk first thing in the morning. You are not working harder. You are working at the right time. The fix is a simple afternoon movement prompt. Set a reminder at 2 p.m. or 2:30 p.m. for one of the following. 10 minutes of walking anywhere inside or outside your building. 5 minutes of stretching at your desk. 2 or 3 trips up and down a staircase. You do not need to change clothes. You do not need to sweat. You just need to move during the window when your body is most primed to pull from fat stores. Habit number 4. Eating lunch after 2 p.m. This is the mistake that busy work schedules make almost unavoidable if you are not actively protecting against it. The morning gets busy. A meeting runs long. Before you know it, it is 2:30 and you have not eaten since breakfast. You eat a rushed lunch at 3 p.m. and then the rest of the day follows it. Dinner gets pushed to 8. The pre-sleep cutoff gets compromised. The overnight fat-burning window gets compressed from multiple directions. And all of it starts from a missed 12 p.m. lunch window. Here is the specific mechanism that makes late lunch damaging beyond just the timing domino effect. Insulin sensitivity follows a circadian pattern. It is meaningfully higher in the morning and declines progressively through the afternoon. Eating the same lunch at noon versus at 3 p.m. produces a measurably higher insulin response at 3 p.m. The carbohydrates in your meal require more insulin to clear at 3 p.m. than they would have required 4 hours earlier. More insulin means a stronger fat storage signal from the same food. A study published in Current Biology measured metabolic responses to identical meals eaten at different times of day. Late eating produced significantly suppressed fat oxidation rates and elevated hunger hormones throughout the afternoon and evening compared to early eating of the same meal. Same meal. Completely different metabolic outcome from timing alone. The fix requires protecting your lunch window the same way you protect important meetings. Block 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. on your calendar if your schedule permits it. If a meeting genuinely cannot be moved and will push your lunch past 1 p.m., eat something small before the meeting to maintain timing. A piece of fruit, a small protein source, anything that keeps your eating anchored to the correct insulin sensitivity window. Habit number 5. Spending the entire afternoon under artificial light. This is the habit that surprises people most. Not because it sounds complicated, because it sounds too simple to actually affect belly fat. 15 minutes of outdoor light exposure in the afternoon changes your overnight fat burning. Here is the mechanism. Your circadian rhythm uses 2 primary light signals each day to stay calibrated. Morning light sets the starting point of your daily hormone cycle. Afternoon light anchors the midpoint and helps regulate the distance between your morning cortisol peak and your evening melatonin rise. When you spend the entire workday under artificial indoor lighting with no outdoor exposure, your circadian clock gradually drifts. The timing of your melatonin rise becomes less precise. Your cortisol curve loses its sharp, well-defined shape. Insulin sensitivity patterns across the day become less predictable. All of these disruptions affect overnight fat burning because they affect the timing and magnitude of growth hormone release during sleep. A study in the Journal of Biological Rhythms found that afternoon natural light exposure improved circadian rhythm alignment, insulin sensitivity patterns, and overnight melatonin timing compared to spending the entire workday under artificial lighting. The participants did not change anything else. Just 15 minutes outside in the afternoon, and the overnight hormonal profile, including growth hormone secretion, improved measurably. The fix is building a 15-minute outdoor window into your afternoon. It does not need to be a walk. Sitting outside during a break works. Eating your afternoon snack near an open window works. If you genuinely cannot get outside, sitting adjacent to a window with sky visible provides partial benefit. You are not trying to get sunshine for vitamin D. You are giving your circadian clock the midday signal it uses to coordinate everything that happens hormologically from that point until morning. Habit number 6. Mindlessly snacking from 3 to 5 p.m. This is the habit that accounts for more unplanned daily calories than most people realize. Not dinner, not dessert. The hours between 3 and 5 p.m. Picture what those hours look like honestly. A few pieces of candy from a jar on a colleague's desk. The leftover pastry from the morning meeting that is still sitting there. A packet of chips from the vending machine. A handful of crackers because the box was already open. None of these were decisions, they were reflexes. And because they were not conscious choices, the brain does not fully register them as food consumed. A study published in Appetite Journal found that unplanned afternoon eating between 3 and 5 p.m. accounted for the majority of excess daily caloric intake in office workers, with participants significantly underestimating the amount they had consumed when asked to recall it. The food did not feel like eating, but the insulin response was real. Each small unplanned snack during this window creates an insulin spike. When these stack across 2 hours, insulin stays elevated continuously from 3 to 5 p.m. This is precisely the window where cortisol is lowest and fat burning potential is highest. Continuous insulin from mindless snacking keeps fat storage mode active during the only window of the day when fat burning should be winning. Lisa is an HR manager who started tracking everything she ate between 3 and 5 p.m. for 1 week. She discovered she was consuming between 300 and 400 unplanned calories every afternoon from things she did not remember eating. Not from hunger, from proximity. The food was there, her hand reached for it, and her brain never recorded a conscious decision. The fix is environmental before it is behavioral. Remove snack foods from your immediate visual field between 3 and 5 p.m. If you want to snack intentionally, use the protein snack from Habit 1 and eat it at your desk with your full attention on the food rather than on a screen. And before you reach for anything in the afternoon, drink a full glass of water first and wait 10 minutes, which brings us directly to the final habit. Habit number 7, not drinking enough water in the afternoon. This is the simplest habit on the list, and it is solving the root cause of most of the afternoon problems we have covered. Here is what happens to your hydration across a typical day. You drink coffee in the morning, maybe some water with lunch. Then the afternoon arrives, and you get busy, and without noticing, you have not had any water since noon. By 3 p.m., you are mildly dehydrated, and mild dehydration creates a signal in your brain that is nearly identical to hunger. Your hypothalamus uses the same region to process both thirst and hunger signals. When you are dehydrated, that region fires. Your brain interprets it as needing food, so you reach for a snack. But the snack does not resolve the dehydration signal. Your brain keeps asking. You keep eating. A study published in Physiology and Behavior found that mild afternoon dehydration was associated with significantly increased appetite scores and a preference for sweet foods in office workers, with rehydration reducing subsequent snacking meaningfully in the following 30 minutes. The craving was thirst. The response was food. The root cause was never addressed. This is why the habit seems so simple but produces results that feel disproportionate to the effort. When you drink 500 milliliters of water between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m., you are addressing the biological driver behind most afternoon snacking before it ever becomes a craving. Fix the dehydration and the cravings that were actually thirst resolve on their own. The remaining cravings, the ones that persist after drinking water, are genuine hunger and can be addressed with the protein snack from Habit 1. The fix is a bottle of water on your desk that you can see from where you sit, filled before 1 p.m. and finished before 4 p.m., visible, within reach. No decision required. Here is the complete picture of 7 afternoon habits that determine whether your evenings and nights burn belly fat or work against it. Habit 1. What lean people do naturally. A protein snack in the afternoon suppresses ghrelin for 3 to 4 hours, reducing evening hunger and overnight insulin without any restriction or willpower. Habit 2. The common mistake. Late afternoon caffeine disrupts the natural cortisol decline curve and compresses the overnight growth hormone window that drives fat burning during sleep. Habit 3. What lean people do naturally. 10 minutes of movement during the 2 to 3 p.m. cortisol valley produces higher fat oxidation per minute than the same movement at any other time of the active day. Habit 4. The common mistake. Eating lunch after 2 p.m. shifts the meal into a lower insulin sensitivity window and pushes the entire eating timeline later, compressing the overnight fat-burning opportunity from the other direction. Habit 5. What lean people do naturally. 15 minutes of outdoor afternoon light anchors the circadian rhythm midpoint and improves overnight melatonin timing and growth hormone release. Habit 6. The common mistake. Mindless snacking from 3 to 5 p.m. adds 200 to 400 untracked calories and keeps insulin elevated during the highest fat-burning potential window of the waking day. Habit 7. What lean people do naturally. 500 milliliters of water between 1 and 4 p.m. resolves the dehydration signal, driving most afternoon cravings before they trigger unnecessary snacking. Here is what I want you to understand before you close this video. The afternoon is the time of day when decision fatigue is highest. Willpower is at its lowest. Your biology is pulling you toward quick energy sources, and it is also the time of day that decides more about your overnight fat burning than almost any other window. The habits that naturally lean people have in the afternoon are not impressive. They are not dramatic. They are not things you would notice watching someone from the outside, but they consistently send the right signals to the right hormones at the right time of day. And those signals compound overnight into fat burning that happens without any additional effort. Try one of these habits tomorrow afternoon. Just one. Start at 3 p.m. Come back and tell me what you noticed after 1 week. Which of these 7 surprised you most today? Drop it in the comments below. I read every single one. If this changed how you think about your afternoons and their connection to belly fat, subscribe to What Science Reveals. Real science explained clearly every single week. And if you want to see how your morning habits and workday habits connect to everything we covered today, those videos are right here. Morning, afternoon, and evening form one complete daily system. See you in the next one.